Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The preaching obligation which is imposed by Islam on its followers, of course, needs a lot of clarification in certain matters. And one of these clarifications is required vis-a-vis the fact that what are the responsibilities or what are the preaching responsibilities of an Islamic state or various Islamic states towards their non-Muslim neighbors. And this, of course, is a very important issue because today we live in a global village and the interaction with non-Muslim neighbors, of course, is very rampant. And since the general worldview and the general perception of the Muslims is that following the Sahaba, following the companions of the Prophet, it is our mission that we have to bring all non-Muslim countries, all the non-Muslim countries in our own subjugation. So therefore, in the foreign policy which is generally adopted, or which is of course not stated but it is understood, is that Muslim countries have been obligated by their religion. It has been made mandatory upon their religion to conquer the rest of the non-Muslim world and to bring them into their own subjugation and to form one territory. Now this, of course, is an issue which needs to be analyzed in the Quran. And if we analyze this issue in the Quran, of course the primary thing which comes to our mind is that the mission of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as has been mentioned in the Quran, was that he was given this duty by the Almighty to communicate the truth to the ultimate extent to his people. And those who denied that truth, this of course is part of the divine law, those who denied that truth were punished by the Almighty. Now this of course was the case even in the case of our last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in his case, once he had delivered the truth to his own people in Arabia, of course they were punished. But another thing which ensued in his own times was that he wrote letters to certain rulers of neighboring countries, and he told them that he would be delivering the truth to the ultimate extent in the Arabian Peninsula. And he asked them to accept faith also, because he has the Rasul of God, and as a Rasul of God they are bound to believe in him. And if they do not believe in him, just as the people of his own area were punished, similarly they too would be punished and subjugated, because they have to come to the subjugation of Islam. Now this of course was something which is clearly mentioned. Now the Prophet himself, in his own capacity as a messenger, when he wrote these letters to these various rulers, of course the time did not arrive in his own life that he could complete this mission. So this mission was left to his companions to complete, and they went ahead with the Itmamul Hujjah, which the Prophet had already done. The Prophet Muhammad had already done in his own times. The only thing which the companions did was they completed this mission for him. And the countries to which these letters were written, they went to them and asked them that if they do not accept Islam, then of course they should get ready to face war. Now this whole endeavor, it can be summed up by saying that it was nothing but divine punishment being meted out to people who had deliberately and intentionally denied the Prophet, who had intentionally denied the truth. It was nothing more. So it is absolutely wrong to say or to interpret this whole endeavor by saying that Islam was spread by the sword. It was not spread by the sword. This whole endeavor, of course, was nothing but punishment by the Almighty to people who had intentionally denied the truth. And this, of course, relates to a divine law which is specific to the messengers of the Almighty. Now, this whole thing, if it is specific, then of course it cannot become an example for the rest or the people who come after the prophets of God, who come after the Prophet Muhammad. For them, this is no statute of foreign policy. This is no obligation of religion that they have to subjugate people. They have to subjugate non-Muslim countries, which are their neighboring non-Muslim countries. Of course, what the Quran tells them is that if they find any oppression, if they find any persecution going on in some other Muslim country, non-Muslim country, or even Muslim country, and if they have to even wage war for that, to curb it, of course this is allowed to them. But to spread Islam by waging war, to bring people forcibly into the folds of Islam, this is something which is never intended, is never an obligation on any Islamic state. So therefore today, the Islamic foreign policy of every Muslim state should be very clear that they are da'is, they are people who are going to preach Islam as much as they can in as better a position and as better a format they can to the non-Muslim world, but they cannot threaten them to bring them into their own subjugation, simply because this was something which is specific to the messengers of God, and therefore common preachers and common Muslim countries, they cannot say that it is their responsibility to bring non-Muslim neighboring countries into their subjugation. All they have to do is to present Islam and to keep on presenting Islam in a very sagacious and in a very, very moving manner, so that the non-Muslim world is also led into accepting and embracing Islam. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات.